to this thing, first thing we're gonna do is torque our head down. Still haven't done that. And we got our reground cams in, which we did a whole video explaining what we did to these and how they're different from stock ones. So go check that out for that information. It's a whole technical thing. So we're gonna torque this down, doing what we do with the other ARP studs, which is a 30, 60, 90. And, you know, that's it. Then we start the horrible process of doing the cam lash, which I'll show you shortly. All right, we officially have the big giant head studs torqued down. So now what we're going to do is, what is going to start as guesswork. Now with a reground cam, you reduce the overall circle of the cam, which means your valve clearance is going to be way off. And because Nissan uses pre-sized cam buckets, it's not like we can get giant ones of these to make up for the difference. So we have to use something called a lash cap. Now, there is no lash cap on the market that fits this right out of the box. You have to buy some, I think they're 5.5 millimeter lash caps, and then modify them to fit. Now, the previous time this car had a race cam in it, we have the lash caps from that, which we know will fit on here, so the modification part's done. Just not sure if the thickness is going to work. So what we're going to do is we are going to take the lash caps and the cam buckets from that head, which I still have all together, put them on here and see how the new cams fit and see how much adjusting it needs to get. So I have here the buckets and the lash caps from that other head. This is a lash cap. That is the side that goes towards the spring. That's the side that goes towards the inside of the bucket. These are hand filed down to do. They're so small you can't really hold them in like a mill or a lathe to get the cuts that you need. So we have to cut the skirts down. You'll notice on this side, which I believe is the intake side, the skirt is taller than on that side, and that's just the way that the valve stick out works. So we have to like really cut the skirts down on these and only kind of cut the skirts down on these. So to put these on, we take this, go in here, and this sucks to do. You have to like pop it onto there and then put the bucket over it, and it's a tedious process which you guys really don't need to watch. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these all on. Okay, so those are all in. I cleaned the RTV off here. I gotta clean the RTV off on the cam cap. But this is how you do it from Nissan to do valve lash adjustment. It's not much different. We're now gonna put the cams in, put the cradle on, torque the whole thing down, and measure the space between the bucket and the bottom of the lobe. And by bottom of the lobe, I mean like the back side, the not pointy side. And you do that for all these, write them all down. And then if this was a normal head, you would just punch in an equation to find out what size bucket you need to get in order to make the clearances right. In this case, we're going to measure these and see how far off it is. If it's really far off, then I might have to get new lash caps that are thicker, or if it's really, really tight, I might have to hand file down the lash caps to give me more tolerance. So what I'm going to do is put the new cams in, tighten everything down, and start measuring. I have my crank so that all of the pistons are about halfway down. Those are the cams in there. I'm going to put a little bit of lubricant on the journals because I am going to have to turn these in order to measure them. So obviously I'll only be able to do the cylinder one like this, and then I'll have to rotate it so I can do the next cylinder, so on and so forth. So I'm gonna just a little bit of lubricant on there, and then I'm gonna torque down the cradle. And after I torque that down, I will show you guys how I go about measuring the lash. All right, so we have our cams in there, and then I have this written out, ready to go. I'm going to go through so many papers. Then I have these special angled feeler gauges. This is what you can use to get into the weird, you know, areas under there. So this bit takes a bit, and again, I try not to bore you guys with stuff you don't need to see. I mean, shoving feeler gauges, you know, in there to measure is kind of boring. So I'm going to measure these up, and then I will show you guys what I find and what my plan of attack is. Yeah, so this is not going to be easy. Because of the increased lift, the overall circle is much larger than the previous cams. And so I'm going to take the thinnest feeler gauge I have, which is 005, and it won't even go in. So this begins the process I was hoping I wasn't going to have to do, because it's probably going to take me a couple days to do it. I now have to take all of this out, and once it's out, I'm going to have to try to measure the outer circle of this on the top there, or on the bottom, and then measure the distance between the journal and the bucket, see how much the valve's being pushed down or the bucket's being pushed down, and then I need to remove that much area plus spec from all, and I mean all, of the lash caps by hand, until I can get this in here and get a feeler gauge in it to start playing with bucket sizes. So this is going to be a project. This is gonna, oh boy. So on the intake side, I'm not sure how well this is going to come up on camera. You can actually see that the valves are ever so slightly open. So, you know, that's fun. Okay, so we are a few weeks later, and it's done as far as the valve lash stuff goes. So what I ended up having to do, and I didn't film it because it's just tedious and I had to play around with it a little bit. I put the lash caps in both sides. On this side, I was able to, I guess I should explain different. The valve stem stick out on the MR-A8 head, so this head, is different than the valve stem stick out on the MR-16. So the lash caps on this side were impacting the retainers. So I was able to grind those down, put them in, and I managed to find buckets that fit. I had to order 3 buckets. That'd be this one, and this one. So these 3. I had to order those buckets because I just didn't have the right sizes, and that took care of that. The intake side was a whole different story. So the intake side, I ended up having to, one by one, take the lash caps, these little teeny tiny things, and grind off material until I had room to fit a feeler gauge in there. Now, I have a lot of extra lash caps, clearly. So I had some room to mess up, and I messed up 2 or 3 of them and made the gap so big that there was no bucket that would fit in it. Luckily, I was able to get them all within spec, doing the little Nissan equation, which is that. So it's T equals T1 plus C1 minus C2. That's all the stuff there. And it's all within spec. So that's done, so we can finish putting the engine together. for anybody who's ever doing a lash adjustment on these, the Nissan Juke MR16 DDT part numbers for all the lash caps, most of them are on back order. But because it's Nissan and they like to screw people over, you can get the cheaper, same exact part from an MR-A8, and it fits right in, and I checked them on the Juke heads too. They're the same thing. Diameter's this, everything's the same. So if you ever need lash caps, don't get the Juke ones. They're more expensive for the exact same part, same thicknesses, same everything. Just get like a 2016 Sentra lash cap. It's the same damn thing. Nissan does this with everything. Nismo RS, it has two different part numbers for pistons and rods and this, that, and the other thing. It's all the same. This is once again an example of Nissan doing that. So, gonna put the cams in fully. I gotta put the decoder wheels on there. Get the cams in fully, tighten that all down. We can flip it over, put the oil pump on it, put the lower oil pan on it, put the timing chain on it. We can put this whole damn thing back together. Hopefully it's back together today. All right, so cams are in, trigger wheels are on. I don't know why I called them what I did earlier. These are on. Now, we were gonna lock these out, but considering how expensive these are, if we ever need them for another car or something, it'd be nice to have them in one piece. These are like 700 bucks a piece or something, I think. Not having them engaged should be good enough, so we're just gonna leave it be and hopefully it works. So now what I'm gonna do is put the oil pump chain on here and do the oil pump before doing the timing chain, just because it makes it easier to see the oil pump timing mark and all that stuff. Gonna set this at TDC. The cams are already in the direction they're supposed to be. This one actually could do with going that way a little bit, which, yeah, all right, I'll turn that a little. So flip it over and we'll do the oil pump. All right, the upper oil pan is on. Oil pump is next. And then we'll do the lower pan and then timing stuff. All right, oil pump's on, chain's on, tensioned. Now we're gonna do this pan. Oil pan is on, don't worry, that's gonna get changed. Just not doing it right now. So now we do timing chain. Super satisfying part. Oh. All right, timing chain is done, pump is done, pans are on, timing cover, valve cover, and then it's ready to go back in the car. Oh, water pump. I do water pump. And the clutch and all that, but that's part of going back in the car. All right, it's all dressed up and ready to party. Intake and exhaust manifolds will go on once it's in the car, just to make it easier to move things around. This timing cover does have an additional cam sensor in it, which we might need for something, so that's why I'm using this one. But it is all hooked up. I'll put the camera on a tripod and spin it over. You guys can see it spin. The next step is to get it off of here, put the flywheel on it, bolt the starter to it, pour some oil in it, and give it some cranks and do an initial cold, dry compression test to make sure that everything is good. Then after we do that, throw it in the car, bolt the rest of the stuff on, and hope we don't blow it up. All right, spin it around. There we go. All right, it's definitely lower compression than usual by design, and you can feel it, which is kind of funny. So, yep. Now it's just doing the rest of the stuff that I listed off.